Hi, welcome to the second video in this Hello, welcome to the second video in this series where I'm making pumpkin heads for pumpkin headed dolls. This is one of the dolls that we're working on. One of the heads that we're working on. The doll's part is coming next. I'm gonna make a video of me dressing it. This one ended up kind of looking like a fishy face pumpkin person. You know, she's kind of funny. But I'll be making her clothes in the next video. We'll work on this head and this head in this video. This is the other one I made. And I added a witchy hat. That's not in this video. Might be in this video. But the witchy hat and its costume is coming in the... have a hair on me. Coming in the next video. So if you want to learn how to make little pumpkin heads like this, watch this video because I'm making them just for you. Bye.
So I've already smushed a nose onto here, and I'm starting with the eyes. This clip I left on here, even though you can see that I changed my mind in the way that I wanted to accomplish adding the eyes. I thought at first it would be really cool to have a ball of clay, have some white around the eyes, but I quickly changed my mind and just stuck the eye in that pumpkin. You can make a little hole with whatever tool you have. I used the end of my scissors here. I've also used the end of a ball stylus to do that. Now, attaching the clay, this head was actually the first head that I worked on, so I wasn't really sure with using the water yet, and I didn't have any around, so I had glue. So I used glue. And it did work, but in the future, when I did the other heads, the water works much better. Strongly advise you just to use water. If you need to use glue to attach your pieces, by all means do so, but try the water first. And here I'm trying to actually just get those edges smoothed in and add a little bit of detail. And this would have been a lot easier had I just used water. It would have smoothed right in there. So, learn from my mistake. I do this almost this whole face using glue. It worked, but it could have been easier. It could be easier for you. I'm just hoping that you don't have to do trial and error like I did here. So I'm adding another eye, and I didn't do a bottom lid. I just was working on the top lid because my inspiration picture that I had didn't have a bottom lid. And I was trying to get this to look like kind of like that, but it looks like its own thing in the end, which is just as good. There goes the mouth. I wanted a pouty mouth, and she definitely got a pouty mouth. I used the Model Magic and smushed in some lip shapes. Do a little detail. I wasn't sure if I wanted the lips turned up on the ends, but I ended up turning them down, and made it look a little fishy. That's okay. That's the kind of pumpkin that is. Adding some cheeks with that clay, just big balls of clay, and smushing it on. It sticks to itself very well. A lot better than it stuck to the pumpkin without the water. Stuff is fun to use and to work with. I seriously recommend it. If you end up making your own pumpkin heads, please feel free to share them. I have a Facebook page as well, The Thrifted Dragon, and share your pictures with me. I'd love to see them. You can see I was trying to figure out the mouth. I like to bring the mouths up around the eye mark or even past the eye, but this one, I didn't end up doing that. I think I ended up just smushing that back down and leaving the lips for the mouth. Now if you have clay like I did here where I needed to remove some, you can use your X-Acto blade or your fingernail and detail it with, that's a ball stylus. It's a very fine tip ball stylus, but it works really well if I use the side of that. It's one of my favorite tools. And I'm going to smush that right back down. It's fun to play with though. Do you know how you mend a jack-o'-lantern? You have to use a pumpkin patch. Alright? So you can see I'm getting ready to go around the edges with that glue because I wasn't really happy with those edges. This helped quite a bit, but again with the water I would not have needed to do this step. It didn't hurt it any, but can't even tell that the glue's on there after it's dried. Here I'm ready for paint. You can kind of test the clay to make sure it's dry. It's relatively dry there. I have flat black, burnt umber, and nutmeg. And those are apple barrel from Wal-Mart. I'm mixing the two together to try to get a good shade for that undercoat. You could also call it a primer coat, but that's the undercoat. And I like to kind of mix it in varying degrees of darkness and lightness, so it'll blend better in the end instead of just one shade. It's good to kind of use a couple different shades. And then after you're through this, let this dry. A lot of this is waiting for things to dry. That's why I have so many pumpkin heads I'm working on, because they're all in varying degrees of dryness. Doneness. Keep a little paper towel so you can wipe off the eyes. That comes off really easy, and if that had dried on there I could have just scraped that off too. Now I'm moving on to my oranges, and these look a lot more orange in the video than they do in real life. And the bottles even say the darker orange I'm using is a cadmium red, and then that lighter one is actually called a vivid red orange. So I mix the two, and I mix that with a Beachcomber beige, and that's apple barrel. The other two are Liquitex, and the beige helps give it enough lightness where it'll cover that brown really well. Without that, it doesn't cover very well. The orange kind of fades back into the brown, so you need that lighter color in there to mix in. And again, I'm just mixing it to varying degrees of darkness and lightness to try to camouflage it in with the rest of the pumpkin. So you don't have to be real exact on this. I'm getting the lighter oranges on there, trying to get some highlights and some, oh yeah, this is where I had to add some clay to those tops of those cheeks. I wasn't very happy with the edges. They were still pretty, you could notice it really good. So this is where I'm using a little bit of water, and you can just see how well this smushes in. That paint's still a little wet, so that helps smush it in a little bit there. And my edges got a lot better after this, so it worked. Sometimes you just gotta play with stuff, make it work for you. And after this, let it really dry. I'm just dabbing off the excess onto that paper towel there. So what is black and white and orange and waddles? It's a penguin with a pumpkin. A penguin with a pumpkin. Okay, that's it. That's it. I swear I'm done. Done with the jokes for now. I love pumpkin jokes. They're so silly. So add that the detail back into that cheek with your ball stylus. Whatever tool you have that you like. There you go. Now I'm going to go over those cheeks especially, and I didn't use a brown for that base coat. I just went in ahead and used those oranges, which worked. See in this shot, it looks very red. That is a reddish orange. Start add some details with that burnt umber. I added a little bit of water so it would flow into the creases better while I'm waiting for that orange to dry up a little bit. I'm going to start working in the creases and pull out some details with that a little bit watered down paint. You can dab it off on your paper towel if it's too wet as you're working. Now it's a little drier, and I'm going to add some lighter shades of orange to try to blend that in. And don't forget your lighter shade. That beige comes in really handy to help blend those colors on top of that brown. I'm going to work on the details and the shadowing here. I'm going a little dark, and I like to use my finger to try to take away some of the darkness there where it's overly dark, and it helps blend things in. Of course my fingertips get very painty, but it works, and that's how I do it. I usually go over a lot of these lines with the tip of my finger to help blend it in and tone it down a little bit there. I like to go around the bottoms of the eyes, give it some shadows, and all the creases. And you can see the creases on this pumpkin. This is a thrift store pumpkin, by the way, that I actually got for free. So I lucked out with this pumpkin. It's a really cool pumpkin. But yeah, you can tell that I just try to blend all in with the pumpkin itself has very light lines in the creases, and I will go back through that with some light lines. That beachcomber beige that I got, it's pretty much the exact same color, so I'll go in with some of that, and I'll bring up those highlights. still using the burnt umber and the nutmeg for those lines. I wanted to try to blend it in. And bring it down from your sculpt onto the pumpkin. That'll help camouflage it better. Sorry for the background noise. We're having one of our four-wheelers that got a repair. It's being delivered. My husband's out there with them. And these are the colors I used to continue camouflaging that, with the addition of a school bus yellow, and that's from a HD high definition folk art paint. Those are some really great paints. Some of these paints I have literally had for 10 years, and they're great. They are worth the extra if you can get them. They last a lot longer than some of the other paints. Like I said, I've had these almost 10 years. They were gifted to me, and I still use them. I use a lot of those paints. I've never bought any, but I'm assuming that you can get those at Michael's and possibly Hobby Lobby. I'm not really sure. But the other paints are from Walmart, and I know you can get some paints from Dollar Tree even that work just fine, as long as they're not clumpy. Here I'm just adding my highlights. And we're on to the next pumpkin. This is a Hobby Lobby pumpkin, and I want to use that stem for a nose. Tried out a couple different types of eyes for this project, and I decided on those green cat eyes. And I'm just lining them up where I think they look alright, and I'm poking my hole with my ball stylus tip. You see the other pumpkin drying in the background. There you go. Hold your other eye up and make sure it's where you want it. Place it in. The mouths are so fun to make. You get a lot of character in doing the mouth. So I have some reference pictures if you like, or things that how you want to try to emulate your own style there. I like a wiggly line. And use your X-Acto blade. Gently press into those lines and try to follow the line, tip to tip, point to point, and then you can pop those little pieces out. Be safe with your X-Acto blade. Gentle pressure. I use my pinky there to try to steady my hand. Don't worry, I don't get cut here. Not yet. I don't get cut in this project. But please watch your fingertips. I don't want you to get cut. I'd never really used an X-Acto blade very much, so I wasn't really skilled with using it, but it's relatively easy to use if you just take your time here. There you go. Now I'm back to the base coat, and this is a very light colored pumpkin, so I'm just using that beige color mixed in with that a little bit of nutmeg for my base coat. Oh, gotta do that mouth first. I think this makes a really neat effect, just carving that mouth out and putting the black in there. Gives it so much character. The pieces that are sculpted on there, I lost the video for that, but it's very similar to the first pumpkin on this video, except I used water to smooth down those edges, and I got really, as you can see there, I got really nice edges, so that worked out good. Of course, use your stylus or other tool to make your details. And I'm just going to coat everything with a combination of that beachcomber beige and nutmeg. Cover up some of those parts that I went over on. There you go. Dab off your eyes and your mouth. And to let it dry a little bit. Now I'm going with a couple different yellows to try to blend that in. I have a, what is this color? Yellow ochre. That's from that folk art high definition. And then I have a wicked bright yellow there, and I think that's the apple barrel color, but it's in an enamel, and that's nice and bright. So I'm just going dabbing on the colors here and there to camouflage the pieces that I added to make them blend in. And those are mostly yellows that I'm adding on that pumpkin. Yep. I got a little green out so I can use it because there seems to be some green speckling on that pumpkin and moldy looking areas, so I want to bring that up into the parts that I added. And I end up adding some little details with that, mixed in with the beachcomber gray. And that green is a Craft Smart Shamrock. I like to add a little shadow around the eye, and then of course use your finger to smudge it in and blend it in a little bit there. And I'm going to go in some of those creases with a darker brown, even though there's not really any darker brown, but I want those details to show. So you got to add some contrast. Bring it all the way down into your pumpkin to really blend that in, to make it one piece and make it look like it's always been like that. I love using these craft pumpkins for a base because they're so easy to work with, and it really saves a lot of time trying to make your own pumpkin out of like polymer clay and aluminum foil. And I mean, you could really just make this completely from scratch if you wanted to, but using these craft pumpkins saves a lot of time, and you can really just start having fun right away, in my opinion. Plus, it's a nice, light end product there, so when you go to put that on your doll, you don't have to try to figure out how to make her stand up. There's the end product, kind of end. I have to paint the hat and add some stuff to that yet. I used that Model Magic, and then next videos you'll be seeing that. And there's my fishy face girl. Hello, thank you for watching. This is the end of the second video. We made two really different kind of pumpkin heads, and it wasn't really too hard. It takes a little bit of drying time, but anybody can do it. You can maybe even do it a lot better. So I hope that you enjoy the project, and I hope that you try to make some too. Next Friday we're gonna have clothes for these guys, and they're gonna go on a little adventure, so I hope to see you then. Bye. But thank you so much for joining us. I hope you
had a had a fun time.